fellow?
Well, the previous president got an announcement for the fellowship, and she sent around this announcement, and I looked at it and said, gee, that looks like an interesting thing to do. So I filled out the application, and there had never been any occupational therapists before, so that kind of intrigued them. And one of the things about this particular fellowship, it's considered a mid-career fellowship. I didn't know what that meant. I thought I was too old. But it turns out there was a lot, some people in the program who were a lot older than me. So if you've been out a while, if you're practicing, they just want you to have some practice experience, because what the fellows do is they bring their experience to the Hill. So a lot of times I'll meet with groups. If I can share one funny experience, the PTs came to lobby. And so I met with them. And one of the things they were advocating was under Medicare, they want direct access. And I was president when they announced they were going for direct access, and at the meeting I said, great, we'll go for direct access too. And they said, no, we're going for direct access by ourselves. We're not doing this with you in speech. So here are the PTs lobbying an OT who knows the story for direct access under Medicare. And he's talking and he's saying, yeah, you know that PTs and OTs too, we know enough to be able to have direct access. We don't need a prescription from a physician. So I looked at him and I said, yeah, I agree with that, but how come you're not here advocating for direct access for OTs? You're only advocating for direct access for PTs. And he kind of looked at me and, didn't really have an answer. I knew the answer, but he kind of was a little embarrassed. So, we bring our expertise and our knowledge, and they have us meet with people who we know something about. So you apply, you go through this application process, they pick a certain number of semifinalists, you come into town, you get interviewed, you sit in a room all day with the other people who are interviewing, and you think to yourself, well, at least I got a free trip to Washington, because you're with like deans of medical schools and all of these people who are like way up there, and you've seen them on TV, being interviewed about Terry Schiavo or the emergency room crisis. You're sitting in the room saying, gee, that guy looks familiar, who is he? Oh, he's on CNN all the time. So, but they're looking for people who are hands-on and who can bring a skill to the Hill. You spend 4 months in what I like to call health policy boot camp, where you meet with everybody who's anybody in health policy, from think tanks to government agencies to private policy shops. And then from there, you come up and we have 20 group interviews, and then you can interview on your own anyone other than those groups. And you pick an office, and you just start working from day one as a staffer. And it's supposed to be for about 8 months, but I was able to extend, so I'll be here till the end of December. Yes.
What do you hope to do once you complete this?
I don't know. One of the things with this fellowship, it's the greatest thing I ever did, but it now makes me feel like, what do I want to be when I grow up? Because I don't want to be what I was. And that's not that I want to be an OT, but I don't, where I was, I don't think is the best place. I kind of need to move on. I want to really work with developing more of a sense of health policy in occupational therapists. I really believe that health policy is the fourth branch of occupational therapy. It's education, research, practice, and policy. Because if you look through our history, practice has waxed and waned depending on policy. When Medicare changed, how many people got laid off from long-term care? When the school system started paying for OTs, how many OTs started working in schools? And that's all health policy. So, with one stroke of the pen, a whole practice area can be wiped out, or it can be included. And I was working really hard on the VA stuff because I knew that if OT wasn't specifically mentioned in the VA bills, that we wouldn't be included. And as it turned out, we were mentioned, and PT was mentioned, and speech is a maybe. It's in their sense of the responsibility of coming to the Hill and pushing some of these things so that we can really have that role in health policy, and they can, you can all understand now that you're here, health policy is as important as sensory integration, because if health policy changes, there's no more sensory integration in occupational therapy. And we really need an NIH, and we're going to put in a line item specifically for occupational therapy. Wow, that does a lot for research for the team.
Okay, well,
Barbara mentioned that she's ready to move on, and I think all of you are ready to hear. There was another university that we were going to have here. They're on their way, so I would just want to acknowledge them. Okay, you've got the cap and the extension of the you've got CHIP, making sure that CHIP is reauthorized so that children can get health care. And then you've got all the other issues. If you wanted to mention them, be cautious. I'd say add only one issue to those two. Your main focus is to educate about OT and connect OT. Now we'll send you off on your way. Tim, Dan, and I, and Sammy and Cindy are here to answer questions. Barbara, will you be here for a minute if anybody wants to talk?
Be able to group you to with other people that are here that you might not have met yet. So just want to make sure you get that.
Okay, and Michelle Bond and Marie Hess, check in with Tim because you need to plan to meet him for a meeting this afternoon at 4 o'clock.
Baltimore. You're going to the Hart Building at 11:30. Yeah. Okay. That's Harden? Yeah. Yeah. So we should go together. Stay together. That's great.
We need to get our